Hello, everybody. It's time for
Tools and Tea Time.
With Tim and Rob on Tuesdays. Thank you so much for coming. Thank you for ending your day with us. Hopefully this is the end of your day. Again, this is Rob and Tim for the Denver Museum of Nature and Science. We've got a lovely show for you today, program for you today. As always, we'll highlight a tool. We'll check in with the community. And for our community shout, we have our lovely guest, Melissa Fike. Our special guest, she is the Professional Learning Instructional Specialist. Try to say that fast 10 times for Brighton 27J. I don't know how you do it, Melissa. You just high on the professional.
I actually say #please.
There you go. There you go. That's much easier. Anyway, getting this together, you know, I don't know. Tea Time's had quite a following. Tea Time's a thing, right, Tim? I mean.
Yeah. You know, I just heard that when we heard Melissa was coming on, we were getting some really famous guests who were interested.
We were, and we had a special invitation guest. We actually were having, I don't know, just tea with the queen, if you will.
Well, you know, Liz and I, we go way back.
You do. You've got history, and she toasted to us, saying, "In these trying times, we need tea and family to help us out." So here's the time.
Pinkies up, everyone. Pinkies up.
Cheers, darling. Cheers. Right. And notice how her handle on Zoom is Queenie. Thanks, Queenie. All right. I'll hand it over to Tim for our tool time.
Okay, this is our weekly tool that we came up with, and it comes from the amazing Rodney, who's just one of our most faithful fans. Yay. And he says, "Hey, Tim and Robert, what else can that fancy pants Zoom platform do that I might be able to use?" And it's a good thing that you asked, Rodney, because we actually gave out misinformation the first tool time, saying that you had to, "Oh, Robert, I no longer have control. Will you advance?" Let's see, request remote control. Okay, I'll do it again. Okay, and yes, we told you that if you wanted to do polls in Zoom, you had to pay extra, but that's not the case. So today we're gonna look at doing polls within Zoom and also stamping within Zoom and how you can use those. So let me go ahead and advance the slide. So let's take a look at Zoom polls. When you create a meeting, at the bottom of that page for the meeting, you'll see the option to insert polls, and you simply type in the polls and then you're ready to go. And so let me see, Robert, again, I'm no longer the co-host, so why don't you start the poll?
Well, and our poll cleared out, so let's go to stamping and then we'll go back to that. How about that?
What happened to our poll? That's weird. Okay. So we'll go on to stamping, and with stamping, it's just another way for your students to be able to like make a claim, and then you can use it to like, they can give evidence to support their claim. But there's a lot of research that shows that making a vote, either in a poll or in stamping, triggers curiosity. It makes learning more pleasurable. And so with stamping, the way you do that is that you go up to the top of your screen and you'll see on the bar at the top, view options. And when you click on view options, a little yellow box should appear on my screen any minute. Okay, Robert, you're gonna have to advance the slides.
I can't, so.
Hearts and stars.
We did rehearse this, believe it or not, we rehearsed this. Okay, yeah, so you'll see view options, and when you click on that, it'll say annotate on what drops down. And then under annotate, if you click on that, another little bar opens up that looks like this. And in the middle of that bar, you will see stamps. And when you click on that, there's a variety of stamps that are possible there, including hearts and arrows and stars. You can either use those each to kind of vote for a different thing, or you can use them, let the kids pick their favorite stamps to kind of add that kind of option of choice to what they're doing. So let's practice doing this ourselves. Robert, I'm going to clear out the stamps. Are people already doing it? Are those you guys? Okay, I'm going to clear this out. They're stamping. So let's let everybody try it.
Go up to the John top. Caverly. This is like Romper Room. Those of you that are. I see John. I see.
Okay. And type in the chat if you can't get it to work.
Good stamping.
Oh yeah, look at all those stamps. Woohoo! Oh wow. Overwhelming response. Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
So we're gonna move on.
Let's clear.
You're gonna clear it, Robert. Okay, go ahead and clear it. Stop stamping. Okay, we're going to tell you what you can do if the kids don't stop stamping here in a minute. Okay, so
I have no control.
I think everybody else has got to stop stamping for a minute.
Oh, here we go. I got it. I got it. I got it. There we go.
Okay, so here's a stamping example for teaching. You going to clear the stamps, Robert? You want me to?
Well, you keep taking control of the screen, though. That's,
Okay, let me take control of the screen then.
all right. All right, go ahead.
Okay, so here's an example. You can use something like one of Paige Keeley's probes that are based on common misconceptions that students have. They're called Uncovering Student Ideas, and if you haven't seen them, it's a great resource. Works for anywhere from intermediate grades up to high school, honestly. Here's a poll that she has about a girl, Maddie, who has a glass of lemonade in the summer, and it sits out all the time in the summer, and she notices after about 10 minutes, the ice starts to melt, and she starts to wonder about this phenomena. I'm going to click to the next slide, and she wonders if A, the box on the left, is the cold moving from the ice into the lemonade, or is the heat from the lemonade moving into the ice, is what she wonders. Or maybe it's both. Maybe some cold is moving out of the ice and some heat is moving into the ice, some cold is moving out of the ice. So she wondered which. So you could ask your students in order to introduce the idea of like thermodynamics and how it works to vote. So you all can go ahead and take control of your stamps, and let's have you stamp for one of the three boxes. Put your stamp in one of those three boxes to see where we are. Which one do you think is going on? Is the cold moving from the ice into the lemonade, or is the heat from the lemonade moving into the ice, or is it a little of both maybe?
And for those of you that just joined us, if you go up to your toolbar, look for more options and look for annotate, you'll see a pen or a pencil. And if you click on that, you'll see a bunch of boxes of marking tools, and you'll click on stamp.
Okay, so Maria and Martina and Melissa, let us know if those directions don't make sense. Okay, so the next thing I would have students do is really quickly, I would ask them to go ahead in the chat and try and put A, B, or C, going left to right, and to say what evidence they have that made them choose that. Like, is it a hunch, or did they actually have some experience? What made them say that? So that we start getting some, so we start getting some evidence to back up this claim. And then, of course, you can launch into like a reading, or you can show them a demonstration in a video where they try to see, like, for example, you can put hot water that's red in cold water and see if the red goes out into the cold, or if the clear comes into the red. And you can do that and then start building an argument about heat and how heat works. So that's an example of how you can use stamping. If you're a social studies teacher, some of you might be, you can stamp where on the map you think something's happening, or you can use stamping in a lot of ways, but it gives students voice and choice. So that's why we're featuring it this week. So that's stamping. Now, we did mention, I'm trying to advance the slide. There we go. We did mention that, kids could go crazy in all of your presentations, like, adults, like you adults are, of course, because kids are just, adults are just kids that had too much, teachers are just kids that had too much fun in school. But you can go up and you can disable this if it gets a little out of hand on the toolbar that you will have as a host, not the toolbar you have right now, but the toolbar you have as a host. You'll see those three little dots in the right-hand corner. Click on that, a menu drops down, and one of the options is to disable participant annotation. So you can disable it and then re-enable it when you're ready for them to stamp again. So there's kind of a fun tool, and we're ready to move on to the second portion of our show.
Yeah, so thanks, Tim. So before we move on, I mean, this is just another way of trying to engage your audience, remotely, and to just get initial thinking. Is just to have them stamp, and so that it's a non-threatening way that they can have choice, they can think about something. You can then layer it on with additional content or further discussion, and then go from there. Do our breakout rooms, that kind of a thing. Unfortunately, we're not set up to do the poll. Actually, I think what I discovered was happening, full disclosure, I switched out of my personal room in Zoom, and we came into this room, and I had not set up the poll. Doggone it. I didn't set up the polls.
Arg.
Arg. Zoom.
User error.
There you go. So this is our community check-in at this time. And then this time we want to break the group up we're going to have a discussion. Here's our prompt. This was something, I was in a networking session outside of work, and this was the question that they posed for us. How do you want to be in this time? We know that we're in this for the long haul. We've had several weeks where, you know, we've had a flurry of figuring out whatever it is that we're doing in our respective jobs and our respective lives. But now it's time to take stock and sort of reset ourselves. And so I want you to just reflect on this. And what we'll do is we'll break out into smaller groups. So Tim is going to describe how we're going to do this, and I'll get the group set up. So I hope you had I hope and trust you had a good conversation. Let me look at the breakout rooms here. Let's pick group 4. That was Emily, Caitlin, and Martina. Do any of you want to come on the mic and just share what you were talking about? You can give a high-level summary or just talk about what you personally talked about. Go ahead.
Okay, I guess I'm talking.
Okay, thank you, Martina.
So we were starting off thinking that we want to be mindful, and that kind of aligned with being patient and give the others the time that they need, and also giving ourselves the time that we need. There was one other word: mindful and patient, and you need to help me. Connected. Connected, right? Because we all miss being with our kids or our guests or whatever it is we worked with in our before COVID life. So we want to try to stay connected, but need to be mindful and patient with that.
Yeah, this is a disruptor in connection. And I think this is something that we need to spend time with to think about what are the needs that are going to emerge from that, and what are the changes in how we connect. I think this is something that is very fertile ground for us to think about, because it is something collectively we are all being, you know, pushed in a way that we're not familiar with. So I'm glad that you brought that up. Thank you for that there. Let's have somebody from, so thank you, Martina. Thank you, Caitlin. Oh, Dan Tomerman's here, and Mimi and Ronnie. How about a Breakout Room 7? One of you come on the mic there.
Okay, I guess I'll come on.
Hi, Dan.
Hey, Rob. One of the things that stuck out to me the most from our conversation was something that Mimi said, actually, and it was about just being patient. I think during times of change, which Mimi also mentioned, it's easy to be reactive, which she said really beautifully, and just being patient and proactive is what's really most important for just every aspect of education in our community. So that I thought that was really impactful how Mimi said that, and definitely echo that. It's been a lot of change in schools and kids and learning, and so having leaders that are patient but also proactive, that are helping others throughout their organizations is super important in my opinion. So
thanks, Dan. Yeah, just how do we cultivate patience when we're moving so fast and furious at the same time? It's sort of, this dual thing is happening where we're moving and making decisions so quickly, but at the same time, we have to be patient with ourselves and with each other in that process. All right. Well, I wish I could actually have all of you share out, but that would take up all of our time. I'm going to pass so thank you for that discussion and conversation. I'm going to pass this over to our lovely guest, the hostess with the mostest, Melissa Fike. Let's hear it for Fikey. What you doing, Fikey? Are you on your mic there?
I know I'm always a little slow on the uptake with my mic.
No worries, no worries.
We're glad you're here.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here. So my kids got me started watching The Good Place. So that's my new background, is the waiting room of The Good Place. Everything is fine. And that's sort of our mantra. What we're doing, what I wanted to chat with you guys about today was just a little bit about how we're approaching remote learning in 27J and talk about it from a district level. So that, and just let you in on some of our thought processes, and maybe it'll give you some ideas of the kinds of things that you can be having conversations about with your people. So Robert, I'm going to ask you if you would advance a slide for me. And one of the things we started planning like we were crazy people, like we have to have this in place, we have to have this in place. And then we stopped and said, wait a minute, what always drives us are our values. And I love that that was our prompt question today, about how do you want to be in this time? And so our values are all about integrity and compassion. And also believing that people are always doing their best and being all in. So when you're in it, you are in it to win it. And so we took those 4 values and we said, if our mission is about empowering every student today to be ready for tomorrow, and this may be the new tomorrow, if not all of it, at least part of it, what does that look like through our values, and how can we drive through that? So we said, well, we're acting in good faith. That was language that came from the state, and said, we want to make things simple and honor the professionals that our teachers are. We want to make sure we're taking care of people and making sure that we're leaning into the fact that we've got families with multiple kids and parents who are trying to work, and there's so much going on out there. We wanted to make sure that we limited what was new. It's very easy to throw spaghetti against the wall and see how much sticks. And we can often be guilty of doing that. Let me pull this resource. Facebook says this. Let me try this. Let me try this. But we said, where do we start with what we already know and make it accessible to the most people that we can? And then our mantra is all about the thinking classroom. How do we get kids owning their learning, and to let go of the idea of being perfect, but continue to embrace our community? So really we said, how can we give ourselves some grace? And so we started with our values. And so the 1-page document that we sent out initially to our principals, this was the top of that document. And we said, this is where we're starting from. This is where we're driving. So based on that, Robert, if you'd advance for me, we said, what is remote assured learning? And one of the things that we talked about was, we can't guarantee equity. How many of you, just a hands up or a reaction, are worried about equity with your students, your second language learners, your kids without access to technology, your special education students? And we said, based on that, we have to make sure that we can be as equitable as possible. So we looked at this as an opportunity rather than as a reaction, and said, this is an opportunity that teachers ask for constantly. All right, I have all this data. I know where my kids need more practice, more reps, but I have no time. I have to keep driving forward. So we said, how can we take this opportunity and say, this is a time to reinforce what we've learned. We've had 3/4 of the school year. How do we go back, use the data we already have so that we can plan to get our kids super solid and prevent that summer slide? And then continue to do some formative assessment for our students so that we know not only can we start with good tier 1 instruction for everyone, but then start to be able to differentiate, not yet, but eventually. We wanted to make sure, again, like I said before, we used existing resources so that we weren't introducing a lot of new. We use Google Classroom. We have our digital resources for our curriculum, and we have our tools that we've developed in 27J of common assessments and learning blueprints to make sure that we know where we're driving. We said, let's use those and drive everything from there. But first and foremost, remember that this is about our families and our community. So even the first week that we came back from spring break, all we did was check in with families. We did a needs assessment. What do you need? Where are you living right now? What's happening? And then based on that, we actually just started true instruction last week. but it's given people time to breathe. And we've never done this before. So we're trying to be very mindful of how we check on our families. One more slide, and then if there are any questions, I'll be glad to take those. So this is the bottom part of our document. Actually, it comes right under our values, but it's what can we give ourselves permission to do? If our focus is on relationships, we have to let go of what we thought things might look like before. It's not about testing. It's not about minutes. It's not about new grades. We're giving kids the opportunity to go back to their third quarter grades, work on what they might have missed, reinforce the learning they've done, really, and releasing perfection. So that's where we're living right now. And even within just a week, a little over a week of instruction, we are now in the place where teachers, principals, coaches, and parents are saying, okay, now thanks for taking care of us. Where can we start to advance our learning? So now that's where we can lean on our tools and our resources. So that's just an idea of how we used our values to drive us towards our decision to not give anything new, but to reinforce what's already been there.
Thanks, Melissa. And I think that does, we talked how that really does get at, how do you want to be? Who are you? What's most important? And when you were telling me about your approach, I thought that was just a really smart way of going about it. And these permissions, I think this is worth time for each of us to do this for ourselves. And not only as in an organization, but to do this for ourselves as we sort of take stock on where we've been and to give ourselves permission of not putting all the weight on ourselves as well, to reach out, for example.
Yeah, although things are being lost, it's just liberating. What you're doing, the freedom you're giving teachers is liberating, and something good can come out of that.
We've got a bunch of messages coming from the chat. Gianna's breakout room was talking about, staying in exploratory mode and prioritizing keeping positive. Jennifer was reflecting more on this idea of disruption and how we could use that in opportunities for engagement, wanting balance in how we manage things. Lots of feedback about starting with your values and the permission. So I think this is just good advice for all of us, both personally and professionally. So Melissa's going to stick around if you have other questions about what's going on in 27J. I'm going to take a minute to talk about some of the things that are happening at the museum. Please go to our website. We've been working very hard to provide resources for parents, families, and kids. Go to our new pages, dms.org/learn, DMNS at home, resources that you can use at home, lessons, video segments, both for adults and kids. Check it out. We have a lot. We're going to have a soft launch tomorrow of more material and more things to come. Tim and I have some webinars coming up so tomorrow. Oh gosh, I better get ready for that one. And then Saturday, making arguments work in online environments. And then finally, through the Science Educator Network, we're having a series of roundtable sessions. Look for it on the CSEN listserv on April 20th. I want to wrap things up. And again, thank you, Melissa, for joining us. If you're still here and you want to come on your mic, take unmute yourselves and we'll just say hello. Hello.
Yeah.
1, 2, 3, take your mics off. Hello.
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 All right. Thanks for coming into the time.
Hey, Robert,
Yeah.
before we're gone, some people still had trouble getting the stamping done. If they want to stick around after, we can walk them through that.
Yeah. Stick around. So thank you very much. And I'm going to stop the recording.